And we back like we never left. You are listening to Live Zone Sports. I am your host, Live Zone, as you know, and I'm here with my co-host. I'll let you introduce yourself.
What's up, everybody? It's Mozzie here again for another week. More discussion, more topics. Let's get into it.
And we got a huge one here, so I'm gonna let you take it away since you're the football master here, and I'm the basketball master. So what we got going on right now?
So the Bills fired their offensive coordinator, Ken Dorsey. Literally today, probably 4 or 5 hours ago, we got the notification of this. And what we're looking at is, do we think the problem was the offensive coordinator, or do we think it's the players? I'm going to go ahead and start this off. And, I think it's the players, short and simple. I don't think they're playing up to their full potential. Let me give you some stats here. Josh Allen has 11 interceptions on the year. We've played 10 games. That's an average of 1 a game. There's actually only 2 games that he didn't have an interception in, and 2 games that he had more than 3. So, Josh Allen taking care of the ball, your most important player, your offensive distributor, he needs to be better. This is terrible. This has always been the thing throughout his career. Are the turnovers going to outweigh his offensive ability and his legs and his touchdowns and his arm, everything? He's a great player. If he can get those interceptions and turnovers down, he can be one of the best, and he can be the guy that we talk so highly of every week. 5-5 for Buffalo right now through their easiest part of their schedule is pretty ridiculous. The teams they have left are the Dolphins, the Cowboys, the Chiefs, the Eagles, the Chargers, and the Patriots, okay? Patriots, whatever. I mean, it's in New England, and it's a December game, so maybe something going on there. Still a tough battle. 18 turnovers total for this Buffalo Bills team through 10 games is almost 2 a game. So that's mixing. You can almost guarantee Josh Allen's throwing 1 interception, and Buffalo's going to fumble the ball 1 time. That's horrific. That's outrageous. The star players need to be better. Holding on to the ball, taking care of the ball. Even yesterday's game, 4 turnovers, 2 interceptions, 2 lost fumbles. Could have been more. Moss fumbled while he was on a breakaway down the seam and fumbled it right to himself and kept running. So that could have been even worse. Losing to a Denver team. I know they had just beat the Chiefs. They had some energy rolling, but Buffalo at home should have put them back in their place. If they have 1 less turnover in that game, I think they win the game. So imagine if they had 0 turnovers. It would have been a blowout. This definitely falls on the players, but I see what Buffalo's doing. They needed to take the heat out on someone, so they chose the offensive coordinator, hopefully to give a kick in the butt to this team and show them that there are repercussions to not performing, and that they didn't want to separate the team in any way so they could see what they could do for the rest of the season. I understand the move, but I don't think it was all falling on the offensive coordinator. I think it's Josh Allen protecting the ball more, offensive players protecting the ball more, and just cut down the turnovers. If you could even cut the turnovers in half, I think we're looking at a 7-3 team instead of a 5-5 team at the least. So yeah, I'm curious to hear what you have on it, how you're feeling about it.
So I'm a little bit of both here. I'm with the coach side and the player side. I said since day one that there's been a locker room problem in Buffalo because of the offseason that they had. It was very quiet. They were trying to figure out problems. And then after that, it just caused more, right? So yes, the media wasn't involved, but because there was no solution, it grew worse and worse and worse and worse and worse to the point where they're at now. Now, like you said, Josh Allen having 11 interceptions in 10 games, that hurts because he is what everybody wants in a quarterback. He really is. It's just looking to me like the system that the offensive coordinator had, it didn't fit the star players that we are watching now. I'm not saying that it's not Josh Allen and Stephon Diggs' fault and all the star players and all that, but I am saying that the system is part of the problem, right? So another thing that I'm going to talk about here is, against Denver, only having one touchdown pass. I mean, that's ludicrous. Josh, that's ludicrous. You are better than that. This team is one of the worst defenses in the league, one of the worst teams in the league, and you can only throw one touchdown. I think it's a very petty move on Josh Allen because I'm going to look over to the other side here. Stephon Diggs against Denver, 3 receptions for 34 yards. I mean, you have one of the best receivers in the league. You got to utilize him, right? We talked about Stephon Diggs being frustrated about not getting the ball. I'm gonna let you know about this. There's only 2 games this season that he has 10 receptions. 2. And it's against the New York Giants and the New York Jets. The rest of them, in the last 4 games, he had 3, 6, 9, 6. I mean, you gotta target your guy more because he is the whole reason why that you became a big name to begin with. When Stephon Diggs came there, it was like, all right, well, now Josh Allen has a legit receiver. Now you can build off of that. You got Gabe Davis, you got Knox, you got Kincaid, you got all these players that you can build off of, but you're not utilizing any of them. That's a problem. So for me, I think it's a little bit of both. I think it is part of the offensive system that was put in because obviously they did something different that they didn't do last year. They're more on the run heavy game, which is not their game. They're a passing team. So I think that's a little bit of a wash right there. So for the system, I do believe that the system was a problem at one point, but the players are a problem too. Another thing that I want to talk about though with the Buffalo Bills is, we talk about Super Bowl teams, and this team should be one of them. They have the team. They have, on paper, they have probably one of the best teams in the league right now, and they just can't get the job done. So for me, I want to know, do you think that the Bills' window to win a Super Bowl is over?
I don't think the Bills' window to win a Super Bowl is over. I think it's closing faster than they'd like. Um, do I think that they still have a chance this year? Yes. Do I think it's going to be very difficult? Yes. If they can rattle off the wins against these teams and play in these games with this very competitive schedule coming up, if they can show out, get some wins, and show us something that they can still play with these really good teams in the league, and make it into that playoffs, I think they're going to go far in the playoffs because I'd rather have my woes at the beginning of the season than at the end of the season. So if they're working out the kinks now to be great down the stretch and great throughout the playoffs, they have a very great shot at making the Super Bowl as well. Going further in the next few years, I think it really depends on the production wise. If they come out and they lose 5 out of these last 7 games, I think we're having a different discussion. I think there's people moving. If they come out and win 5 of these last 7, I think they buy themselves another year at least, or another half a year to see where that next season goes. It's truly dependent on the production of this team going forward. I still think they're a dangerous team and can beat anybody on any given Sunday. I think anybody can beat anybody on any given Sunday in this NFL right now. But it's really going to be up to protecting the ball to make sure they can win these games. If they have any of these turnovers against the Eagles, Chiefs, Dolphins, Cowboys, the game's going to get out of hand before the first half is even over. So it really depends on if they can figure this out right now. And if they can't, we're going to have some tough talks moving forward. I do also want to point out, I want to give props to the Denver Broncos. 1 time is a fluke, 2 times a coincidence, 3 times maybe it's the real deal. So they just beat the Chiefs. Now they beat Buffalo. Whoever they face next week, I don't know off the top of my head. But if they can get another dub, I think this Broncos team is somebody that we actually maybe need to talk a little bit more of sneaking into the playoffs, being able to play with these teams after the very bad woes in the beginning of the season, giving up 70 points, us questioning if this duo would work out between Sean Payton and Russell Wilson. But hey, I mean, beating the Chiefs and the Bills in back-to-back weeks, uh, Bills on the road. I mean, you got to give them a little props for what they're doing. They're at least keeping it together.
Yeah, I mean, definitely a little bit of props there. I don't necessarily know if I can still put them in a playoff conversation after, because you still got the Chiefs, you still got Jacksonville, you still got Houston, you still got Miami. I just it's hard to say if I could see them as a playoff team. But one thing that I will say is I think that the Buffalo Bills era of Stephon Diggs and Josh Allen is coming to an end shorter than later. I really do. I really think that this window is closing. I really think if they don't get it together and at least get to an AFC championship game this year, I really do think that it's over for the Buffalo Bills. They're either going to have to get rid of Diggs or they're going to have to get rid of Allen. Knowing how NFL teams work, they're going to get rid of Diggs because they're going to rely on their quarterback. But the thing that I want to say here, the Buffalo Bills last week came in as the fourth oldest team at 26 and a half years old on an average. The average for a NFL team right now is right above 26 years old. So, I mean, with aging coming through and with, Josh Allen being in his prime, Stephon Diggs is getting older, Gabe Davis is getting older, I don't necessarily see if I see this team being a championship contender the same way I see a Kansas City Chiefs or a Philadelphia Eagles or a Detroit Lions being a championship contender. So for me, I really do unfortunately think that their championship run is over, or their looks to get a championship are over. I really do think that the most you're going to see is a playoff team out of this if they don't make a real change real quick.
Absolutely. It could be an end of times in Buffalo. Could be the kick in the butt they needed to get going, but only time will tell. I definitely agree with most of the points that you made, and I hope they can turn it around.
Yeah, I mean, coming from me, I'm a Buffalo Bills fan. So Buffalo Bills are my second favorite team. And I thought that they had the best team on paper and the best look for the Super Bowl this year. And Damian Harris got hurt. Then after that, they signed Leonard Fournette. They're utilizing the run game more than the passing game, even though they have so many passing options. It's just looking like a bad scenario for the Buffalo Bills. And for me, I really do think that that offensive line needs to step it up because Josh Allen should not be running as much as he is.
Absolutely. So that's been the extra point here, discussing the Bills firing their offensive coordinator and their hopes and dreams of winning a championship closing sooner rather than later, apparently. So next, we're going to move on to dynamics on the hardwood. We're going to be looking at Tyrese Maxey, having a little discussion about him. So stay tuned for that.
Yes, sir.